All right, I think we are live right now. Yep, we are live. And welcome to the Watchman Wire. You all know me as Watchman. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I've got a very interesting guest with me here tonight. His name is David Lheureux. And David is the leader of a group called 8.3 Leader. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Kevin. Welcome.
And so I just wanted to kind of go over some stuff here with you because I know a lot about what you've been doing with the group, and I know quite a bit about what your intentions are with the group. But what I want to do is find out a little bit more about where you're at right now with things. And tell us a little bit about the group, like how it got started and what made you want to start this group 8.3 Leader.
All right, Kevin. So I'll give you the layman's terms of what we're trying to do. We're trying to revive liberty, freedom, and love of not love of country, but love of the things that our country is supposed to be. The things that we hope to be. We're fed up with the status quo. Both sides are not representing us. And this is a values-based organization. This is a values-based group. We're not any one particular side of anything, except for the Constitution. The group was started as a response unconstitutional in my mind, and government tyranny with coronavirus this year in 2020, and it's just grown. And people are looking for what I'm offering. People want to find other like-minded people who believe in the Constitution, who believe in the Constitution, who love America, but are the way they see America going right now. That's what 8.8 is.
I gotcha. We're getting some echoes, or people are hearing some echoes. So maybe if you could turn your volume down a little bit.
Sure. How's that, guys?
I got one guy in the chat. He's kind of doing some tech support for me here a little bit to make sure we're on par. Mr. Hennessy, is that better? David, can you still hear David Lheureux?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was talking to the other David in the chat. So I don't have any clear indication on whether he's still getting an echo or not. But so what I'm kind of wondering is, so until I hear any feedback from him, I just want to kind of get an idea of what your background is. Can you tell us a little bit about you, like how you got to this point?
Right. So I'm going on 30. What am I? Going on 34 years old now. 34 years old now. I bleed red, white, and blue. For things that I believe my country should stand for. And I ended up serving 8 years in the U.S. Coast Guard. I was a helicopter flight mechanic, hoist operator. I can tell you everything about how to rip apart and put back together a helicopter and how they fly. After I got out of the service, I was looking for other ways to serve, and kind of unhappy with the way things were going in my country. And I've always been a big proponent of personal responsibility. I've been heavily involved in the fitness space, and done a lot of transformation myself. And so the responsibility of having ownership over one's own health and our own physical person that has connected with me in the political sphere, where it was finally time for me to take some ownership over my involvement in politics, and taking action on where my country was going. And it was time for me to take ownership of that. And it was time for me to take ownership of that. That's kind of where I came from. That's kind of where I came from. Now I'm just leading this group, and
Gotcha.
Going to it.
No, that works. That works for an answer for me. I guess apparently we're still getting some echo here, so I'm going to try some things on my end to see if it helps. But anyway, so just so I have a clear understanding of your direction for the group, kind of where you'd like to see things go, can you kind of lay that out for us a little bit? Like kind of what your end game is, if you will.
Well, the final end game would be that 8.3 liter connects enough like-minded, patriotic, Constitution-loving people that we can gather large numbers of people in real life in one location at a time, and we can have real political power. When, for example, the New Hampshire government, I live in New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire. The New Hampshire state government comes down, and our governor says, "We're going to lock you guys down for the next 3 weeks, and you can't leave your house. 3 weeks, and you can't leave your house. Show up 50,000 strong on the state lawn and say, no, you're not, and say, no, you're not. Try again." That is the end game. That to unite enough people, to unite enough political power, to have without having to resort to violence, without having to resort to games, without having to resort to games. The voice of the people, the voice of the people, through to sheer numbers, through that when something is coming down, that when something is coming down on the horizon, and we see tyranny on the horizon, or it's here, we can get together and we can say, nope. You guys better go back to the drawing board because we're not having that.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a pretty strong statement. I think pretty straightforward to the government. If they don't understand that, then they won't understand anything. So, I guess, boy, there's so many things I could ask you, but I'm kind of concerned about this echo that we're getting at the same time. We're not getting a crystal clear sound on this, so it's got me a little leery here, and I don't have any way to really figure it out. Do you have more than one microphone going, David, by any chance, or just the one mic on your phone? I think
all I have is just standard Skype call that I'm on.
Well, I don't.
Would you want to try to figure this out and then set a time for your subscribers that we can do this so that they know to tune in?
Wait and see if David says that the audio is cleaned up or if it's gone or what's going on. I don't know why he's getting an echo, but I don't know. We can continue on anyway. In a worst case scenario, I can have you back another time. No big deal for me.
I'm not
I
going.
It was Friday night, so maybe we'd catch a few people home, and we could get you some exposure out here, so people know what you're trying to do. Is your thought process the? Yeah, he says to just continue. Is your thought process that it's going to be more than just a New Hampshire thing? I mean, I know the group has been started here in New Hampshire, and I know. You're trying to grow the group. Right now, you're probably at about, 1,000, 1,500? I don't know exactly in that group, where you're at. Would you?
Yeah, I think it's about
1,100 right now?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Would
just
you
about,
say
yeah.
that, going back to my original question, though, would you say that you can see this going outside of New Hampshire into a much larger spectrum, or just here in New Hampshire, or kind of what's your thoughts there?
I do see it growing. It can certainly be a national thing. This is not just a New Hampshire group. We already do have members that are spread from here to Tennessee, Michigan, California. We have members out in Washington State and in Alaska. Freedom knows no state lines. I will say that. The Constitution knows no state lines. Now, we do have different state laws, and some places in America are much more free than others. But the concepts that we are talking about are universal to Americans. They are unalienable rights. They do not come from the government, and they do not come from a state. So that being said, we have common cause and we have common unity with the rest of the American citizens. Now, it started in New Hampshire, and for me, New Hampshire should be the rebirth of liberty in this country. For the subscribers you have who aren't from New Hampshire and don't know anything about it, our state motto is live free or die. That is our, since it's on our license plates. That's something that every New Hampshire person is familiar with. And the full quote is live free or die. Death is not the worst of all evils. That was said by General John Stark shortly after the Revolutionary War. And so New Hampshire should be a hotbed of liberty. And I really would like to see that spread and catch fire places. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of people here in the state that would agree with you. I think that and you and I've had these discussions many times, and what I would say is I think while there are a lot of people that agree with you, sadly there are a lot of fence sitters. There are a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'll just wait, till things get real bad, and then I'll just hold on. I'll just hold on till then, and then I'll join the fight. Then I'll join the fight. Then I'll dig my heels in." What do you have to say to people that say that, David?
I mean, things are bad enough. Can we stop with that logic? Things are bad enough. We need to put the brakes on right now. No further. None. Yeah. Because if you're somebody, so the common term is the silent majority, right? The silent majority needs to stop. That is that's no longer going to be effective, and it's no longer going to matter, because the silent majority is being eroded constantly by the very vocal and angry leftist minority. Okay? They are winning the culture war. They are definitely, in my mind, they're polluting the minds of all of our children. They're raising children that are designed by the public school system to hate America and to go in a leftist direction. This silent majority crap has to stop, and it needs to stop now. Because I'll tell you where the root of all of our problems are. We have been silent. This is my fault, and this is your fault if you're watching this. Okay? We are the reason why we have these problems, because we have continued to allow these problems to grow and to grow and to grow, and keep saying, well, we'll just wait till it gets really bad. We'll just wait until I'll know the right time to finally stand up and say something. The right time is now. The right time was actually 20 years ago, but we can't go back and change that. Now is the time that it has to start. We have to put the energy and the effort into it now to stop the backsliding anymore, and then to gain momentum back in the direction of the Constitution, back in the direction of freedom and liberty, back in the direction of free speech, and getting back to some kind of normalcy in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. And I, listen, everybody that is watching this or will watch this down the road may or may not know my backstory, but I've been out of this for a while, because, quite honestly, I felt like I was throwing pearls to swine. Like there were a lot of people that just didn't care, and I think people are starting to come around a bit more. I think they're starting to understand the severity of the situation that we're in. It's unfortunate that it took this long to get us here. It's unfortunate that but there is a saying that I've heard you say it, and I'm trying to remember how it goes, but it's something along the lines of, when the next best day to start something was that we should have started yesterday, today. And that's where we're
right
at, Now, the other thing that I haven't really talked to too much in this video yet. There's a couple of things, but one of them that I wanted to bring up is that the fact that you kind of have a background in physical health and things of that nature. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit, maybe?
Right. So, I kind of alluded to that, and that kind of my drive for owning myself and my own physical fitness was something that has developed me politically. But where that came from was that when I was 14 years old, I was 250 pounds. I was about 5 feet tall, and I was as wide as I was tall. And I had a terrible quality of life. And it severely affected my childhood and my development. And all I knew was when I decided to make that change for myself, all I knew was I didn't want what I had. I didn't know what I wanted because I didn't know what it was to be fit. I didn't know what it was to feel energetic and strong, and to not get laughed at, and to be able to walk up a flight of stairs without losing my breath. I didn't know what that was like, but I knew I didn't want what I had. And so over the course of a few years, I did a 120-pound body transformation, and started to take ownership of my own life.
Can you kind of give us? And I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you kind of give us the mesh between how your training comes into play with Liberty, and how the two kind of mesh together? Can you kind of put those pieces together for us?
Right. Well, I mean, first off, ultimately, the common thing is one thing that I harp on that you hear me say constantly. It's personal responsibility. Nobody can make you do anything. Nobody can make you do it in whatever situation you are in, whether it's your health, your fitness, your finance, or the situation in our country. You have to take responsibility for that. That's nobody else's fault but yours. There are always things that we cannot control, i.e. your genetics, or the status of your birth, whether you were born into a wealthy family or not, or the things that happen that you just can't control. But what you can control is what your place is. You can control how you eat. You can control the things that you watch on TV, what you put into your brain. You can control the way that you spend your time. You can control where you invest your energies. And the parallel with fitness with that is you can't fake that. When you see somebody who is, objectively, they're muscular, they look fit, they're a competitive athlete, that cannot be faked. That takes time and energy and discipline. It takes years of commitment. Yes, there can be natural talent, and yes, there are genetics at play, but you cannot fake your health. Your body and what you objectively look like in your objective health is a byproduct of all of the decisions you have made up until this point in your life. And it's the same in politics, and it's the same in the way that how you speak about your political views and the things that you believe. Those are the things that you believe politically, you're going to display in the world. Your worldview and the way you interact, it's all a representation of what you believe inside. Okay, it's the same way. What I believe about myself, what I believe I'm capable of, is going to be manifested in my physical body. But what I believe is also going to be manifested in the way I interact with people around me in the world. And that's where the politics comes in. It's the politics is no more than like legislating the way people interact with one another, legislating the way human society interacts on a person-to-person level. We give it structure. Well, what you believe and the things that are inside you are going to come out in the way that you believe politics should be run.
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm one of those guys that I preach personal responsibility all the time, and then I have to catch myself all the time, like man, you're not holding yourself to your own standards sometimes. That's how it goes for everybody. I think nobody's perfect. You're always trying to work on it and become better the next day than you were the day before. So one thing I've got to bring up, because I know it's a hot topic right now. Everybody's on this. I actually did a stream on it earlier today because it's something that is really pissing me off. It's had a fire under my ass for I don't know, 8 months now. You want to talk a little bit about? Let's talk a little bit first about COVID and your personal experiences on how it's affected you. Um, are there any direct ways that COVID has affected you? I mean, and I know, I'm not saying like family wise necessarily, but any way in particular that it's affected you?
Yes. First and foremost, since we've been talking, and I'm big on mindset, I'll tell you right now, COVID has been a massive blessing for my life. It's been a lot of dynamite to my life, but it's been a huge blessing. 2020 and COVID is going to do amazing things for my life in the long term. And if you can find the ways to harness your energy and to not let things get you down, this year can also be a massive step in the right direction for your life. Because what COVID has done for us, in the grand scheme of things, what it's done for me personally is it has shown a big flashlight on people's true colors, on what's actually important in life, and on the fragility of our system. And directly, COVID shut my fitness business down. The actions of the government, the actions of the fear response from other people who are my clients, and also just a restructuring of the things that I thought were important in life. I've shuttered my business in lieu of other pursuits, in lieu of pursuing bigger problems that our country faces, such as tyranny. To me, it's more important that I pursue things like 8.3 leader than it was, all this exercising and looking good in the mirror. Because if my country crashes and burns, then the gym doesn't mean anything. So I had to take a step back and I had to reassess the fundamental ways that I was failing my neighbors and my country and myself by not attacking things that were much more important. So my business, I closed my business. Nobody else did it. I did it. So my choice, my responsibility. But I chose to do that. But that's a direct way it's affected me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I wasn't honestly, I wasn't sure how you were going to answer that question, but that actually was the perfect answer, because I had totally forgotten about how it had affected the gym and the business. And I mean, it really has been, it's been a long year. I mean, for a lot of people, it's been a long year business wise.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's picked up, it's kind of it's been a funny year that way. But
well, in every situation, there's always winners and losers. Every time technology advances, every time a new law is passed, every time a natural disaster happens, I don't care what it is, there's always somebody who will capitalize on it, and there's always somebody who will let it break them. 2020 is no different. There are people whose fortunes and lives and their fame and fortune, and there are going to be other people who it's the end.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing I can tell your viewers, is that this shit's going to be what you make it.
I've got a guy, David, my guy in here earlier, was asking a question, and he said he just wanted to know why. He said, why does David think COVID cases are much lower in European countries where mask mandates are much stronger?
I personally haven't seen that. I'm not following too closely with case numbers. Look, when COVID started, however long ago that was, we were talking about herd immunity. And we still need to get herd immunity. How we get herd immunity, I don't care. I think paying attention to case counts of new cases and cases total is an arbitrary moving goalpost that's designed to keep people afraid. Look, I'm not unaware that people have died. I'm not cold to the fact that people have had major losses in their families. I have family too. I have grandparents too. I have at-risk people in my family too. But here's the thing. This is nothing new. And to me, I'm not seeing something that would account for the massive overreaches of the government that we're seeing, the massive economic downturn in many sectors that we're seeing. It's, to me, it's a big like smoke and mirrors show almost. We've taken something that is natural in human life. People get sick, people die, diseases come out. There's a swing where it takes out a lot of people, and then we get over it, and it becomes less dangerous and less important to us. That is a swing that's been happening as long as people have been alive, and as far as I know, it will continue.
I can remember SARS. I can remember, all these different viruses we've had over the years. I mean, it's swine flu. It's, same thing happens every single time. And
yeah,
people are still here. It's natural. That's right.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the thing with COVID specifically, one thing that they've done is they've really weaponized this idea that if it just saves one life, then it's worth it. I will tell you right now, I think that is one of the single most damaging logical statements of logic that is anywhere in the political atmosphere right now. This idea that if it saves just one life, not will save, if it saves just one life, that anything is justified. This is the most immoral, terrible, the ends justifies any means kind of statement that there is in our politics. And this is awful. This is an evil kind of logic to follow. Because if that is true, then the government has unlimited power to tell you what you can do 24/7, 365 days a year, and you are nothing more than a cash cow to them. That logic cannot stand anywhere in the same room with any kind of freedom. They are exactly opposite.
No, and David just he was just writing some more comments, which I think we'll kind of agree with here. He said, "My opinion is that partial mask mandates don't work. The CDC report proves that 70% of the people who got COVID-19 basically 70% of the people who got them wore masks. So if 70% of the people who got COVID wore masks, and I saw that same report. I mean, it's foolishness, And then he goes on to say, but when you wear a mask, you're not protecting yourself against COVID. You're protecting others if you have COVID from the droplets. I still have a hard time with that, and the reason I have a hard time with that is because, to me, hold on. So let's pretend this is my mask. Does it work one way or both ways? So if you cough right there, it works the same way as if it's going out, right? So why does everyone have to wear one? Right?
Right. And here's the thing, and this is why I've tried not to get into the nitty-gritty and the details and arguing about the science on the masking and trying to find some higher truth in statistical data that an organization that I don't trust has gleaned from all these statistics. I'm trying to not focus on that because my logic says if you believe the mask is designed to protect somebody else and you go out in public with that logic and you wear a mask, that means you think you might be sick or you think you are sick. So that logic and then masking tells me, what the hell are you doing out in public? If you think you might be sick, it's your responsibility to stay home. I don't wear a mask and I don't believe in wearing a mask if you're not sick. I'm not sick. Mask on, that's because I'm sick.
Yeah, hence the T-shirt that you're wearing right now.
It's healthy until proven sick. In America, we have this thing called individual justice, a presumption of innocence. And I'll tell you what, we have a presumption of healthy also. Kevin, when was the last time you got tested for tuberculosis?
The last time you know what, man? The last test I had for anything was probably
More
diabetes.
people die of
I had a test for diabetes, I think, like a year and a half ago. And I get where you're going with this already. You know, more people die from tuberculosis. More people die from freaking, heart disease and diabetes and all these other things. Cancer.
Yeah.
These are...
Number one. Let's actually talk, and it's interesting because this whole personal responsibility thing and this whole COVID thing ties in perfectly with my beliefs about health and fitness, in the fact that if you really want to talk about what's actually killing Americans, let's do that. It's the same with the Second Amendment arguments. Okay, let's talk about what's actually killing Americans. A fat, lazy, freaking overconsumption lifestyle of no responsibility for our actions and no taking heed for what we know is right. We eat and drink and smoke our ways into crappy health, and then we blame somebody else when we die of heart disease to the tune of 650,000 people every year. Not once a decade, not once when a new disease comes out. Every single year, 650,000 people die of heart disease. Of that 650,000, about 370-ish thousand of those are specifically coronary artery disease, which is most often.
Well, and also, even if it's hereditary. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but even if it's hereditary, like, for example, on my father's side of the family, it runs on my father's side of the family. That doesn't mean I have it. I mean, I have a greater risk. I'm in a greater risk category of having it. And so I need to be smart about the things I do, the things I drink, the things I eat, the way I live, And I think the same thing goes for COVID. I think you have to, personal responsibility has got to kick in at some point, right? I mean, you have got to assume that if you're so scared of going to the store or whatever, and you're afraid to leave your house, and you're afraid to go to the movies, and you're afraid to go do things, maybe that responsibility falls on you to stay home. Because if you're that scared and you go out and you get sick, who do you have to blame? The guy who is wearing a mask next to you? No.
Nobody.
Just you.
Just you.
Yep. So to me, it kind of goes, it all comes back to personal responsibility. Like every single thing we talk about, especially if you're a member of 8.3 Leader, which there's a link in the description. If you're a member of that group, you kind of see that general theme over and over and over again. And I mean, not just because it's David talking about it, but I see tons of people interacting in that group talking about this stuff because it's important. It's happening. And whether or not we want to face facts and deal with it, it's happening. So if you join the group, just check it out, and see what you think. I mean, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't agree, but at least you'll see a differing opinion maybe than what you have. And I think sometimes we kind of get into that narrow-minded bullshit where we just see things one way and we don't even go to look for anybody else's opinion on the matter. And from what I've seen, David, in your group, you tend to implore people to speak their mind and say what they feel,
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's a hard fact. Here's a hard, honest truth for you to understand right now. I'm not for everybody. In the same way, you're also not for everybody. Your viewers that are watching this right now, you know what? You're not going to like everything I have to say. I'm not going to like everything you have to say. And that's okay. That doesn't mean either of us are bad people. What that means is we can disagree. Now, that being said, the personal responsibility aspect that we've been talking about, the argument to this, which I think is important to bring up, is a lot of people will say, well, you do have a responsibility to not go get your neighbor sick. You do have a responsibility to do all these things for society. Well, here's the deal. That is the logic of the left. And that's one of the other things that I think is very dangerous and very poor, almost evil logic that we have going on right now. And it's the idea that I am personally responsible for everybody else, their safety, their fitness, their finances. And it's the society of we've got to take care of everybody at the expense of self, right? Somebody who doesn't want to work gets my tax dollars, whether or not I want to give it to them. Somebody else who wants to live a super unhealthy 100 pounds overweight and smoke and drink and then put me in a mask because they're afraid of getting COVID or they're in a risk category. No, I am not personally responsible for anybody else at all, period.
Right.
I am responsible for myself. And the thing about that and that is personal responsibility. And the thing about personal responsibility that people don't like is when you actually work that way, every once in a while, you stick your foot in your own mouth. Every once in a while, you make a mistake. Every once in a while, something bad happens because bad things happen in life. And when something bad happens and you accept the fact that you had your hand in it and you have to deal with it now because you're responsible for it, sometimes you got to take a mouthful of shit. And that doesn't taste good. And people don't like that. But that is ultimately how you grow and how you learn and how you figure out how to not take those mouthfuls. You've got to do it every once in a while, but that's on you and on you alone. And when we have this mindset that I have to take care of everybody else, where does the burden lie? Because if everybody is responsible for everybody else, nobody's accountable for themselves, and you end up right where we're at.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, if there was a spokesman for personal responsibility, David, you're probably it. And I've known you a few months now. I think
6 months, maybe
something like that.
Yeah.
And I've been to a couple of anti-mask protests with you, and I've met some of the people involved in the movement, and I think that it is a growing movement. I think that, if it continues to grow at the rate that it's growing, I think you're going to end up seeing, you'll have that 1,000 people that you want to have at the State House, here in Congress. I think it'll happen. But it's got to grow because, like you said, you don't want to take 100 people over there. You don't want to take 500 people over there. You want to go with 1,000 or more. You want to go with a group so strong that it can't be ignored. And as you said,
right.
I mean, you said there's how many people in New Hampshire, and I mean, you had that all broken down at one point.
I mean, so there's about 1.38 million people in New Hampshire. We're a pretty small state. And 1.38 million people, I find it very hard to believe that we don't have 100,000 people who love America, love freedom, and actually believe in the Constitution, and would be willing to give up maybe 6 hours on a Saturday afternoon or 4 hours on a Wednesday afternoon to show up somewhere to ensure that those freedoms stick around and last for their kids and grandkids. I will not be convinced that we are in the minority. I will believing in the Constitution makes us bad people, and I will not be convinced that this is a losing battle and we shouldn't fight it, because there are things that are just inherently right to do. And even if you lose in the process, you still fight the battle because it is morally and ethically right to take a stand on some things. And this is one of them. We've got the people. People just have to be willing to take a little bit of ownership and then get organized and show up. You don't have to believe in everything that I say. You don't have to believe in all of this. But in general, if freedom and liberty and the ability to make your own choices, not the choice I want to make for you, not the choice that the governor or anybody else wants to make for you, but the choice you want to make for yourself. If you believe in that, then try to get plugged into one of these liberty groups somewhere in the country, in New Hampshire, if you're here, and find a way to see what you can do with us. Because even if it's the simple interaction that when we say, hey, the state wants to pass some new crazy law, we need everybody that can show up to show up in 2 weeks. And if that's the one time for that month that you are active, that is worth it. So, that's kind of, I don't know if that answers that question, but
it does. And I actually had another. There was another question that was asked, which is, what would David advise we could do today, as a person who's passionate about health? He said, "What would David advise we could do today to take responsibility? Lose weight?" I don't know.
It could be. So statistically, probably for most people watching this, weight is a factor. America is chronically overweight, and not just overweight, but obese, and in the southern parts of the country, morbidly obese. Statistically significant, approaching in some states up to and over 40% of the adult population is rated as obese. That's terrifying. So just over the broad stroke, most of us probably should keep an eye on our weight. But what I will tell you is it's not, fitness is not a one size fits all. There are some pretty consistent guidelines. And one of the biggest ones that you can take an immediate measurement of where your health is at is getting your waist to hip ratio. If your waist to hip ratio is out of whack, especially if you're a man, okay, this is statistically significant rule of thumb here. If your waist to hip ratio is out of whack and you've got this big old belly on top of these little skinny legs, you are very much more likely to have heart disease and die of that number one killer. It is way statistically weighted. They have found, you don't take my word for it, go do 5 minutes of reading on Google, but it is the single fastest indicator of where your general health is at, is your waist to hip ratio. The other one that you can pay attention to is the ability to get up and down off the floor. Somebody who cannot get up and down off the floor is infinitely closer to death. They are infinitely closer to their own mortality than somebody who can get up and down off the floor, all other things being considered. That's a very quick litmus test. Now, that might seem like a pretty easy thing to do for you, but you'd be surprised the amount of people who can't do that for a number of reasons. Mobility issues, lack of strength, lack of core strength, coordination, bad joints, all of those things, high blood pressure, fainting spells, all of those things are indicators that will play into reasons that you can be close to your own mortality. So that's a quick indicator. Can you get up and down off the floor? Okay, we can do that. Go get a tape measure and measure your waist and your hip ratio. Go to Google, find out how to do this stuff, measure your waist to hip ratio and see where that's at. That'll give you a quick assessment. From there, don't just say you want to take responsibility. Take ownership now. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to do a push-up or a crunch. After you get off this video, go do a set. Don't put it off. That's ultimately how you do this, because the timing is never going to be perfect. The situation is never going to be perfect. You're always going to have other things on your plate. You have to make time, because if you don't make time for your health, it's never going to show up. So literally, stop what you're doing. Even if you're listening to me on this call right now, get down on the floor and do a set of push-ups right now and generate the habits that will carry you into where you want to go. If you want to be a certain person 5 years from now, you need to live the habits that person would have. That's how you become who you want to be. You live certain habits, and then those habits make you who you want to be.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more again, and the reason that I couldn't agree more is because what you guys don't know is that I've been taking health advice from David now. He's been kind of my I wouldn't say personal trainer, but he's kind of like got me on the right track over the course of the last several months, health wise.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed with me. A lot of things have changed with me since 2015 when I was known as Watchman before, and this is kind of a whole new series of videos and a whole new set that we're pushing into here. And the reason that I want to do it this way is because I have met a lot of people, a lot of liberty-loving activist people who need to be need to have their voices heard, and you're probably one of the leading people I've met this year in that. I mean, until you're around David, or you've been he's so infectious. I mean, the liberty minded stuff that he'll throw at you is just like,
don't say infectious. Bad word.
Yeah.
Bad word.
Well,
infectious.
Well, you know what? If COVID is infectious, then David is like the flu on crack, because he will bitch slap everyone and everything back to where they need to be. This whole mask thing, though, has really, I mean, it's got me fired up. It's got me fired up because I keep seeing all these stories, and I mentioned it earlier today in my other live video. I keep seeing all these stories, and David, you've seen them. I mean, holy crap. If you go into 8.3 later, you'll see tons of these stories. I don't even know how many there have been, and there's more every other day, it feels like. So I definitely feel like, at least when we can all get together and talk about it, then we can say, well, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that was happening, because I don't think a lot of people do know. I think they know that some of this stuff is happening, whatever the mainstream news is telling them, but they don't hear about the girl down the street who went, she went to go to a health clinic and she got denied service, even though her doctor had given her a doctor's note to get service, and she got denied service, and then she had to throw a goddamn thong on her face. I mean, seriously. There's got to be some kind of common sense thrown into this, because Jesus, I don't even care. I don't care if you're a diehard liberal. How does that make any freaking sense to you? That it just doesn't add up.
It's a departure from reality. It's a total departure from reality. It's that old adage: if it walks, talks, and acts like a duck, it's probably a duck. When you hear hooves, think horses, not zebras. I mean, we've just departed from so much actual sense. I hate even saying common sense, because it hasn't been common since I've been alive, and I'm only 34. It's just it's so insanity. It's so insane, and we've had the left normalizing insanity for so long that people don't even recognize it sometimes anymore. And they're willfully ignorant. It's terribly sad. And these kind of things are happening. These stories about the ridiculous masking, horror stories, the mask horror stories, if you will, they're happening every day all over the country to everybody. And for various reasons. And I think it really hits close to home, and it's really been a great awakening call. And I think masking can be a rallying call for us, because it's not just something that you see when you're going down the street. It's not something you read about in a book. It's not something that somebody else experienced. It's physically something that they have forced onto everyone in your house, in your places of worship, in the place you go grocery shopping, in the place that you go to hang out with your friends. They're talking about doing it with your kids in Halloween. They're talking about canceling that, just that in your face. It is physically attached to your body. Period. You cannot escape it. It is as close to somebody's physical person as it can be without physically being inside of them. That is why this is so much of an inflammatory and an emotional topic for people, because it's not just in somebody else's backyard. It's literally attached to your own body. That's like me saying that every single person in the country is going to get their ears pierced and give me some feedback on that, because people would be like, no, you're not doing that to me.
My mom would be pissed.
I mean, and then we can go around the circle with the health argument, but ultimately, you're responsible for your health. You have to be held responsible for all the decisions you have made up to this point in your life. Kevin, you might be in a higher risk point than I am, because you're not as healthy as I am. But who's made those decisions for you up until this point? You have. You have. Somebody who And, the thing about this is, and again, the sad stories of this are not lost on me. But here's the deal. Here's what COVID is doing. In New Hampshire, if you look at our statistics, not the made up statistics, but the actual statistics that we have been told, right? The New Hampshire statistics say that basically 89% of the people who have died of COVID are 70 plus. And something like 85% of them are in long-term care settings. They objectively, not feelings, but objectively, are the people who are the most at risk. They are the closest to death. They are in a long-term care setting for a reason. That doesn't mean I want them to die. That doesn't mean they deserve death. But what that does mean is it is the lion and the gazelle. The weak and the sick are the first to go. The concept that that's not normal, and it speaks to that mentality of if we can just save one life. And it also speaks to the very immoral concept that we can overcome death and that we are going to be able to stop death in its tracks and we'll just prevent everybody from dying. That I think that stems from an atheistic view, basically, of, well, if there's no God, then it doesn't matter. So we can control death. And thinking that we can control death and stop death and that death isn't a part of this cycle, I think it's a very self-gratifying thing that we're trying to do. It puts all the focus on me. It's the culture of me. Well, I'm going to die one day, so in the time before I die, it's got to be me, 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 because there's nothing else. If there's just this life and then death, then, well, it's all about you, and screw everybody else. Yeah. And everybody else needs to take care of me. I'm not trying to get super religious, but I do think there's a connection there where somebody's morality is tied directly to how they feel about life and death.
Sure.
And when you talk about life and death on the grand scale, on the philosophical scale, you kind of got to talk religion a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's
another
admirable to bring up. I think we're running short on time anyway. We've got about maybe 8 more minutes left, so I just want to. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk to you about. I think we've kind of covered the majority of. Oh, Second Amendment stuff. What's your thoughts on
your guns?
What's that?
Don't give up your guns.
All right, give us more. I want to know your full thoughts on the second. First of all, I'll extend the time if I have to, but I want to know. Give me your thoughts on the Constitution, and then specifically we'll go into the Second Amendment. And then I'll touch on a couple other little things. But go ahead.
The Constitution is not perfect, but it is one of the best, if not the best, documents ever created by man after the Bible. I believe it was inspired by God because the way the Constitution is written, and if you believe in the Constitution and the rights that it gives us, it is based on inalienable rights. They are not granted by government. And if you believe rights are not granted from government, there's only one other place they can come from. The Constitution is a beautiful, eloquent, and blessed document that we need to be very careful to stay in line with. The Second Amendment is designed so that no government can ruin that Constitution. Do not give up your guns, 1. And 2, there's already a lot of gun laws. All gun laws are unconstitutional. Why? Because it's already illegal to go murder somebody with your gun. It's already illegal to rob your neighbor of their money with your gun. It's already illegal to steal somebody's car with a gun. You don't have to regulate the tool that somebody uses to commit the crime. You don't have to regulate hammers to stop people from being killed by hammers. You don't have to regulate knives to stop people from being stabbed. You've got to try to get people to be less evil and do less evil things. And that you cannot legislate.
That's right. So now that we touched on, Constitution and we've touched on Second Amendment, I'm not sure how much you're aware of what's been going on YouTube and Twitter and stuff over the last few days. But they've been putting quite a bit of a lockdown, from what I understand, on specific types of content. Meaning, if you talk about the V word, where the the roll up your sleever, as it's called, if you talk about that, they've been pulling the videos, and I actually have a screenshot where they pulled down. I can't see the name of the video, but it was a 21-minute video that I had out back. I guess it would have been a few months ago now. It had 1,263 views, and it was talking about the Moderna vaccine. So specifically, that's what they seem to be censoring. What are your thoughts on censorship, First Amendment rights? Do you have anything you really want to talk about there?
I think that is a whole nother segment, but in a nutshell, I really don't believe in censoring speech. Specifically, I think a hot issue in there is not a hot issue currently, but one of the hot issues with speech in general in the last couple presidential terms has been this idea of hate speech, and the fact that people say speech can be actual violence. Speech is not violence. Violence is violence. Okay. And I don't believe in this idea of hate speech or in making certain speech illegal, because when you don't allow speech, you're not getting rid of the ideas in the people's minds that want to spread these ideas through the speech. You're not getting rid of the ideas. They keep the ideas and they grow and they build, and there's no outlet. When there's no outlet, there's not the ability to see what people are really about and distance yourself from those bad people, or try to help those people change. And B, you're not getting all the ideas out, and so the best ideas are not allowed to come to light. Okay, we want all speech to be able to be said, and then we discern what is not. We don't say certain things are bad speech. We let all speech go, and then we say, hey, that guy says the N-word 27 times in a conversation. He's either a rapper or he's a racist, one or the other. And so then you can make your decision from then. But if you make that kind of speech illegal, how do you know what that guy really thinks, right? You can't legislate what's in people's heads. You find out what's in people's heads by having discussion, by letting them dig their own grave, if you will, by, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You let them hang themselves, as the case were. Well, that sounds really bad when we're talking about race. But that's what you're saying.
I get what you're saying. It's kind of like the whole, not to get into politics again, but the whole thing with Trump and Biden. Okay, if Trump would just shut up and let Biden talk, he'd sink his own ship, man. I don't, just shut up. Just let him talk. He will sink himself. It won't take long. But I kind of feel like things are kind of like really tightly controlled right now, because we've also got, we've got this whole sham last night, where it's a town hall, right? That's no town hall, man. We live in New Hampshire. We have town hall meetings here, man. And when there's a town hall meeting, people are wearing sidearms, and they're ready to lynch somebody if they have to. They're ready to chase you out of town with a pitchfork and a torch. I mean, it's serious here. So I don't know. Anyway, I won't get too much into that, but
I think it's important, though, you bring up the town halls, Kevin. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that we need to make sure we talk about on this call before we get off. This is not this year, this COVID, this election. This is not about the presidency. For me, really, in the big picture, and with trying to address the big issues and our issues that we have going on, the stuff that I'm really trying to tackle, we need to look at the local level. And specifically in New Hampshire, we have open town meetings. We still have meetings in this state where everybody can get together and get in front of the people that are running your town and your city, and you can tell them what you think. You can do a hand vote. You can actually tell these people what you want, what you don't want in person. We still actually do that. And COVID, and specifically the masking, has shown that what your local town and city government is doing has a lot of effect. And who is in charge of your local select board? Who is in charge of your zoning boards and your planning boards? They have way more say and way more power to F your life up than you thought they did. People think that voting means just go vote for the presidential election. No, it's more important that you vote in the people that you want to run your neighborhood and the people that you want to live next door to you. Because if we all handle ourselves and our neighborhoods on that level, then the top-down government doesn't matter. We voting and on how the politics run from the top down. I don't give a crap about the top, because the top has no say if the entire bottom is different. Okay, who is running the show at your local levels? The people you can physically approach, the people you can actually talk to, the people that you have real, the ability to act with on a personal level. Those are the people that are more important in these elections in the next few years. Okay, because the government's we the people. There's way more people who are on these little town select boards. There are way more people who are little public health inspectors that make the local laws and who are the ones who are going to there's way more of us than there are of people in the White House.
Yeah.
Fix it on the street. Fix it on the local level.
Well,
get your people in at the local level.
A prime example, in my opinion, right here in New Hampshire, a prime example of this is the fact that the governor was not the one originally who had mandated all of these draconian legislation. I mean, it wasn't him. He was just another sock puppet as far as I can say. He just said, "No, we're not gonna mandate it." But then what happened was, in every little town, right, starting from Plymouth to Campton to, I mean, it's gone right down through Portsmouth. It's just, I'm not saying that's every town, but I'm saying this is how they're controlling it. This is how you get draconian legislation in a little small town, is because you need to know who those selectmen are. You need to be on their ass every single second. You cannot sleep when it comes to your local legislators. You cannot. Now, am I saying
right.
that outweighs a presidential election? Maybe not. I don't know. But I feel like more with a presidential election, I mean, especially with all this ballot shit that we're seeing happen right now, I just feel like that's so goddamn rigged. I do. I feel like that is. I mean, I just feel like it's kind of they're puppets that are kind of placed in. I mean, that's my take. But aside of that. So to get back on point, there's a couple other things I wanted to mention. One, getting back to your website. His website is 8.3.com, all spelled out. That's 8.3.com, all spelled out. The Facebook group and that are down in the description below, so you can check out both of those. I implore you to join the group, check it out, and get involved. Even if you're not in New Hampshire, because there are people there from all over the country. We've got people from the deep south in there. We've got people from all over the place in there. And I think that this could really grow into something so much bigger than what it is right now. It has the capability, if people are willing to stand up for their rights and know their rights, first of all, and then stand up for their rights. Outside of that, yeah. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground here tonight. Do you have anything else that you want to add, David? Anything that I might have missed?
Yeah, I mean, I really thank you for having me on, Watchman. I really appreciate what you're doing and all the effort that you've put into helping this group. And I'm excited to see where you grow personally. That's exciting. Being a part of that and helping inspire you on that journey is really what I'm trying to do for you and for all the people who see this. I'm nobody special. I'm doing what I feel like is just my responsibility. I'm not doing anything exemplary. This is just what I should do. I think I want to close with the idea that these things are not only, and getting out to these events, is not only politically beneficial, but it's fun. We have so much fun when we get together and we have a barbecue with 60 or 100 people.
Yeah.
And, meeting people that we're like, we didn't know you felt this way. I didn't know you were right up the street this whole time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good people. And honestly, these kind of things help to restore my faith and my hope. I've had so many people that come to these interactions, that come to these group meetups. We've had the flag waves, the flag rallies, and the barbecues and all these events. And I keep hearing the same thing. They say, I was having a down week and, we did the flag wave and all of a sudden I'm recharged for the week and I'm ready to go because they get beaten down. And I know you guys are beaten down too, because I am. Just because I'm the one on this Skype call does not mean I don't face the same challenges. This stuff beats me up inside. It tears my heart out to see my country broken like this. And I struggle with the same things. Kevin struggles with the same things. We are in this together. We are American citizens in this together. And, I want to call you guys to unite and to remember that it's not just all political maneuvering. Being an American is fun. It's awesome. It's cool. Conservatism in those values, capitalism says be who you want to be. Make the money you want to make. Spend it how you want to spend it. Be proud of who you are because you have made you that person. Nobody else. And you can take pride in that. Conservatism and these things that we've been talking about in general, they are fun and they're exciting and they're cool and there's no limitation on it. The left is the party that says, feel bad about your success. You didn't build that success. Somebody else did. You need to take all that money and give it away because you don't deserve it, because you didn't work hard for it. And even if you did work hard for it, somebody else can't work, so they deserve to get all these handouts. The left is the party of feel bad about yourself and of guilt. And all the stuff I'm talking about, American values, that's the party of, yeah, it might be really hard. And yeah, not everybody has the same start in life, but we can't control that. What we can control is what we do and what we do with it. So go out, kick ass, and feel good about kicking ass, because that is the American dream. You can start with nothing and you can go as high as you want. And that is the truth. I have seen that happen in my life so many times. When I get down and which I do, right? I have to remind myself, I have to kick myself in my own ass and go, no, you can do this. And guys, you can do this too, right? We're in this together. We all struggle. It's not easy for anybody. But the fact that you're here right now watching this, you want to be part of the solution, and that you're on your way. You don't have to start because you're already on the journey. All right, guys. So I appreciate you coming out and listening to what I have to say tonight.
All right, thank you, David. And man, at this point, I guess I'm gonna call it good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and listening in and watching. And I hope to see you over on 8.3 Leader, Leader. Catch y'all later. And this is Watchman.